The darkness of space stretched forever in all directions. 3 cargo ships moved slowly through the black, their engines humming with a steady rhythm. They were not fancy ships. They were old, reliable freighters that carried goods from one human colony to another. Captain Deho sat in his chair on the bridge of the Busan Express. He was drinking coffee and reading reports on his screen. The coffee was terrible, as always. The reports were boring, as always. Everything was normal, which was exactly how Deho liked it. Normal meant safe. Normal meant he would deliver his cargo on time and get paid. His communication officer, a young woman named Haye Jin, suddenly sat up straight in her chair. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on sensors." Deho put down his coffee. "Strange how?" "Multiple ships just appeared on long-range scans, big ones. They're moving toward us fast." Haye Jin's fingers danced across her control panel. "I'm counting 12 ships. They look like military vessels." Before Deho could respond, the other 2 freighter captains appeared on his communication screen. Captain Hyunwoo of the Daejeon hauler looked worried. Captain Youngsik of the Incheon Pride just looked annoyed. "Please tell me you're seeing this too," Hyunwoo said. "We see it," Deho replied. He pressed a button on his chair. "Heejin, send out a standard distress ping to Terran Defense. Let them know we have unknown military ships approaching." "Already done, sir," Heejin said. The 3 freighters slowed down and moved closer together. It was an old human instinct. When danger came, you stayed near your friends. The 12 unknown ships formed a circle around them. They were massive vessels covered in weapons and armor plating. They made the human freighters look like children's toys. A communication signal came through. The face that appeared on the screen was not human. It had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. The creature wore an elaborate uniform covered in medals and symbols. "Primitive vessels," the creature said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "I am Admiral Krelmoth of the Valorian Imperium. You have entered Imperial space. You will surrender your cargo immediately and submit to Imperial authority. If you refuse, you will be destroyed." There was silence for a moment. Then Deho started laughing. It started as a chuckle, then grew into a full belly laugh. On the split screen, Hyunwoo and Youngsik were laughing too. Admiral Krelmoth's 4 eyes widened. "You dare laugh? You are surrounded by the might of the Imperium." Deho wiped tears from his eyes. I'm sorry. It's just, you want to rob cargo haulers? Us? We're truck drivers, friend. We don't even have weapons on these ships." "Then you will surrender," Krelmoth said. "In those?" Youngsik pointed at the Valorian ships on his screen. "Look at them, Deho. They look like they were built 100 years ago." Hyunwoo was still chuckling. "More like 200 years. Are those plasma cannons?" "Nobody uses plasma cannons anymore." Admiral Krelmoth's face turned a darker shade of gray. He was clearly not used to being mocked. "You will show respect to the Imperium or face the consequences." Deho held up his hand. "Listen, we've already pinged Terran Defense. They'll be here in about 20 minutes, maybe less. My advice? Just move along. Nobody needs to get hurt here. We're just trying to deliver refrigerators and farming equipment." "You call for help that will never come," Krelmoth said. "There are no other human ships within scanning range. You are alone." "Yeah, that's what the sensors say," Deho agreed. "Human military ships don't show up on regular sensors until they want to. But trust me, they're coming." The alien admiral made a gesture. "You test my patience. Perhaps a demonstration is needed." He turned to someone off-screen. "Fire a warning shot. Target the lead vessel's engines." On the bridge of the Busan Express, an alarm started beeping. "Incoming weapons fire," Heejin reported. Her voice was calm. She didn't sound scared at all. A bright bolt of superheated plasma shot from one of the Valorian ships. It streaked through space toward the Busan Express. The bolt came closer and closer. Then, 3 meters from the ship's hull, it simply stopped. The plasma dispersed into nothing, spreading out like water hitting an invisible wall. The laughter stopped. Deho's face became serious. "Okay, that was rude. We were being nice. We were trying to help you avoid making a mistake, but you just shot at us. Your shields," Krelmoth said slowly. "They shouldn't be that strong. My sensors showed minimal defensive capabilities." "Your sensors are garbage," Youngsik said flatly. "Just like your ships." "Now you've done it," Hyunwoo added. "Terran Defense doesn't like it when people shoot at civilians." Admiral Krelmoth stared at the 3 freighter captains. For the first time, doubt crept into his expression. These humans were not afraid. They should be terrified. They were 3 cargo ships facing 12 warships. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, they looked almost sorry for him. "Last chance," Deho said. "Turn your ships around and leave. When our military gets here, if you're still pointing weapons at us, things are going to get bad for you. Really bad." "The Imperium does not retreat from primitives," Krelmoth declared, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. "We warned you," Deho said with a sigh. He leaned back in his chair. "Heejin, how long until response team arrives?" The communication officer checked her console. 16 minutes, sir." 16 minutes, Deho repeated, looking at Krelmoth. "You have 16 minutes to make a smart decision. I hope you use them wisely." The Valorian admiral cut the communication. On his flagship, he turned to his officers. "Scan those ships again. Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what we're really dealing with." His science officer worked quickly, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, the scans are being blocked. I can see the basic hull structure, but everything else is hidden behind some kind of interference field." "They're cargo ships," Krelmoth insisted. "They must be bluffing." "Admiral," another officer said carefully, "perhaps we should consider their warning. We have no information about this species." They seem very confident. "They are 3 ships. We are 12. The mathematics are simple." But even as he said it, Krelmoth felt uncertain. Something was wrong. Prey didn't act like this. Prey didn't laugh when predators surrounded them. On the Busan Express, Deho poured himself another cup of terrible coffee. "Heejin, make sure you're recording all of this. Command is going to want a full report." "Already recording, sir. Should I update the other freighters in the area?" "Yeah, send out a general message. Let everyone know this sector might get busy for a bit." Deho sipped his coffee and made a face. "Is it just me, or is this coffee worse than usual?" "It's the same coffee we always have, sir," Hyejin said. "Then it's always been this bad, and I just keep forgetting." He looked at his screen, where he could see the Valorian ships still surrounding them. 12 ships? They really thought 12 ships would be enough. To be fair, sir, they don't know us yet. True. Deho smiled. They're about to get an education. Time passed slowly. The Valorian ships maintained their positions. The human freighters waited patiently. Somewhere in the distance, moving faster than the Valorians could imagine, help was coming. Admiral Krelmoth watched his countdown timer. 16 minutes, the human had said. It had been 15 minutes now. Nothing had happened. No ships had appeared. Perhaps it had been a bluff after all. Then in the 16th minute, space itself began to change. Space did not act the way it was supposed to. Reality bent and twisted like water going down a drain. Then it opened. Not like a door opening, but like reality itself was being unzipped. Through the opening came 6 ships. They were not like the Valorian vessels. They did not have the curves and decorations of the Imperial fleet. These ships were all hard angles and flat surfaces. They were colored dark gray, and their hulls seemed to absorb sensor beams instead of reflecting them. The smallest of these ships was twice the size of Admiral Krelmoth's flagship. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, every alarm started screaming at once. Officers shouted reports over each other. The sensor displays were going crazy with information. 6 ships unknown class, the sensor officer yelled. "Sir, they just appeared." "Not from hyperspace. They used something else, something we don't have in our databases." Admiral Krelmoth stared at the display. He had been in the Imperial fleet for 30 years. He had seen ships from 100 different species. He had never seen anything like these. A communication signal came through. The face that appeared was human. A woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight style. She wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. Her expression was calm and professional. "This is Commander Jiwan of the Terran Defense Force Destroyer Soul's Hammer," she said. Her voice was even and controlled. "You are in violation of Terran commercial protection treaties. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of human-controlled space." "Human-controlled space?" Krelmoth found his voice. "This sector belongs to the Valorian Imperium. You are the trespassers here." "No," Jiwan said simply. "Check your star charts. This system was claimed by humanity 70 years ago. Your charts are out of date. Impossible. The Imperium has mapped this entire region. Apparently not well enough." Commander Jiwan looked at something off-screen. "I'm reading weapons hot on all 12 of your vessels. That's a hostile action against civilian ships under Terran protection. You have 1 minute to power down." Admiral Krelmoth felt anger rise in him. This human, this female from a species he had never heard of, was giving him orders. Him, an Imperial Admiral with 30 years of service and 100 victories. The Imperium does not take orders from unknown species, he said coldly. You will withdraw or face the consequences. Commander G1 tilted her head slightly. That's unfortunate, she paused. Are you really going to do this? You shot at civilian cargo haulers. That's already bad. Don't make it worse. I have 12 warships. You have 6. Yes, G1 agreed. We noticed. She didn't sound impressed by his numbers. Krelmoth made his decision. The Imperium had built its power on demonstrations of strength. You did not back down. You did not show weakness. All ships, he commanded. Open fire. Target the human warships. It was the doctrine of the Imperium. When facing an unknown threat, you hit it with everything at once. Overwhelming force. Quick victory. The way it had always been. 12 Valorian warships unleashed their full arsenals. Plasma bolts, missiles, particle beams, and quantum disruptors filled the space between the two fleets. It was enough firepower to crack a small moon. The displays showed hundreds of incoming projectiles and energy beams, all converging on the 6 human ships. On the bridge of the Soul's Hammer, Commander G1 watched the incoming fire with the same calm expression. Shield status? She asked. All shields at 100%, her tactical officer reported. No need to reinforce. Good. Let's see what we're dealing with. G1 watched as the Valorian attack reached her ships. The plasma bolts hit first. They splashed against invisible barriers and dissipated into nothing. The missiles came next, hundreds of them. They detonated against the same barriers, their explosions creating brief flowers of light that faded instantly. The particle beams scattered as if hitting something solid. The quantum disruptors, the Imperium's most advanced weapons, simply stopped working when they got close to the human ships. For 10 seconds, the Valorians poured everything they had into the attack. For 10 seconds, space was filled with weapons fire and explosions. Then it stopped. The Valorians had fired everything they could in one massive alpha strike. The 6 human ships sat in space, completely undamaged. Not a scratch. Not a dent. The shields hadn't even flickered. On the Eternal Dominion, silence fell over the bridge. Every officer stared at their displays, trying to understand what they had just seen. Scan their shields, Krelmoth said quietly. How are they doing that? I don't know, sir, the science officer said. His voice shook. The shields are operating on principles I don't recognize. The strength readings are impossible. Nothing should be able to stop that much firepower. Commander G1's face appeared on the communication screen again. Okay, she said. Our turn, her tactical officer spoke up. Commander, what power setting? 0.001%, G1 said. Let's not make a mess. 0.001% confirmed. Admiral Krelmoth didn't understand what they were talking about. Then he saw one of the human ships turn slightly. A section of its hull opened, revealing a weapon port. Something inside glowed with a pale blue light. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted. A beam of blue light shot from the human ship. It was thin, no wider than a finger. It moved faster than the Valorian sensors could track. The beam touched the forward section of the Eternal Dominion. The shield emitters were gone. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply gone. There was no explosion, no debris. The massive shield generators that protected the front of the flagship had ceased to exist. In their place was empty space and a perfectly smooth hole in the hull. Damage report, Krelmoth demanded. Shield emitters 1 through 6 are gone, sir. Not offline. Not destroyed, gone, as if they were never there. The hull has been cut with perfect precision. No heat damage. No radiation. They just removed them. Commander G1's voice came through the speakers. That was set to 0.001% power. At full power, that weapon would have removed your entire ship from existence. Not destroyed it. Removed it. It would simply stop being. She paused. Are we done here, Admiral? Or do you want to see what 0.01% looks like? Krelmoth stared at the display showing his damaged ship. His shields were gone. The human ships hadn't even been scratched. His officers were looking at him, waiting for orders. Pride said to keep fighting. Experience said that was suicide. All ships, he said slowly. Stand down. Power down weapons. Smart choice, G1 said. Now you're going to turn your ships around and leave human space. If you enter our territory again without permission, we will not be this gentle. Understood? Understood, Krelmoth said quietly. Good. You have 1 hour to leave this sector. If you're still here after that, we'll escort you out personally, and you won't enjoy the experience." The communication cut off. The Valorian fleet turned and began moving away. They moved slowly at first, then faster. Soon they were running, their damaged flagship limping along with the others. On the Busan Express, Captain Daeho watched them go. Well, that was exciting. Think they learned their lesson? Hyunwoo asked over the communication link. Maybe, Young-sik said, but I doubt it. People who build empires don't learn easy. Commander Ji-won's face appeared on Daeho's screen. "Sorry about the delay, Captain. We came as fast as we could." 18 minutes is pretty fast, Daeho said with a smile. "Thanks for the help. Just doing our job. You folks okay? No damage? We're fine. They took one shot at us, but the shields handled it. I saw that in the logs. I'll file a report. This incident is going to get attention." Ji-won looked tired. "You three should probably expect some company from intelligence. They'll want to know everything about these Valorians. We'll cooperate," Daeho promised. "Good. Safe travels, Captain." The communication ended. The three freighters resumed their journey, their engines humming steadily. Behind them, the 6 warships of Terran Defense Force stayed on patrol, watching the space where the Valorians had fled, far away. Moving through hyperspace toward the Valorian capital, Admiral Krelmoth sat alone in his quarters. He was writing his report to the Imperial High Command. It was the hardest report he had ever written. How did you tell the leaders of a galactic empire that they had just met something stronger? How did you explain that their most powerful weapons were useless? How did you admit that humanity, a species nobody had heard of, had technology centuries beyond the Imperium? He wrote the truth. He had no choice. The Imperium needed to know what was out there. They needed to know about the humans. The High Council chamber on Valoria Prime was the largest room in the Imperial Palace. It was built to impress and intimidate. The ceiling rose 50 meters high. Pillars of polished stone lined the walls. At the center sat the 7 members of the council, the most powerful beings in the Valorian Imperium. Archon Supreme Telvanos sat at the head of the council table. He was old even by Valorian standards. He had ruled for 40 years and led the Imperium to countless victories. He was not used to hearing about defeats. Admiral Krelmoth stood in the center of the chamber. He had delivered his report. Now he waited for judgment. "Let me understand this correctly," Telvanos said slowly. "You encountered 3 cargo ships, civilian vessels, and when you attempted to claim them, 6 military ships appeared and humiliated an entire Imperial battle group." "Yes." "Archon Supreme," Krelmoth said, "and these humans have technology that makes our weapons useless." "Yes." "Archon Supreme, and you believe they could have destroyed your entire fleet but chose not to?" "I am certain of it." "Archon Supreme." Telvanos leaned back in his chair. Around the table, the other council members whispered to each other. This was unprecedented. The Imperium had been the dominant power in this region of space for 800 years. They had conquered or absorbed every species they encountered. "How is this possible?" Councillor Vectra demanded. "How did a species we have never heard of develop such technology?" "I don't know," Krelmoth admitted. "They appeared from nowhere. Our databases have no record of them." Telvanos turned to another figure standing near the wall. "Director Mirthia, you are head of Imperial Intelligence. What do you know about these humans?" Director Mirthia stepped forward. She was younger than most of the council, but had earned her position through skill and cunning. "Very little, Archon Supreme. We are already gathering information. I will have a full report within a month. See that you do." Telvanos looked back at Krelmoth. "Admiral, you are dismissed. We will discuss appropriate responses to this situation." Krelmoth bowed and left the chamber. He had survived. The council could have executed him for his failure. Instead, they had listened. That meant they believed his report no matter how impossible it seemed. In the following weeks, Director Mirthia worked without rest. She sent her best agents into neutral territories. She hacked into commercial networks. She intercepted communications. Slowly, she began to build a picture of humanity. What she learned disturbed her. Humanity controlled approximately 200 star systems. That was nothing compared to the Imperium's 847 systems. But the humans had only been in space for 300 years. 300 years to go from one planet to 200 systems. The Imperium had taken 2,000 years to accomplish the same. The humans had no client species. No conquered peoples. Every human world was populated by humans who had chosen to move there. They were all one species working together. Most disturbing was their technology. Every analysis suggested they were centuries ahead of the Imperium in almost every field. Their ships were faster. Their weapons were stronger. Their computers were smarter. Agent Ralthos was Myrthia's best operative. She sent him to a human border station called New Jeju. His mission was simple: observe and report. Ralthos disguised himself as a merchant from the Kelthani species, a race that looked similar enough to Valorians that basic cosmetic work could fool humans. He rented a small shop on the station and began his observations. The first thing he noticed was how casual the humans were. They laughed often. They told jokes. They seemed to treat everything, even serious matters, with a certain lightness. It was very different from Valorian culture, where everything was formal and structured. The second thing he noticed was their relationship with artificial intelligence. The humans had AI everywhere. True AI, not the simple computer programs the Imperium used. These were thinking machines with personalities and opinions. Ralthos watched a woman argue with her personal AI about which restaurant to visit for lunch. The AI suggested a place with good salads. The woman wanted pizza. They debated back and forth like old friends. Eventually, they compromised on a place that served both. This should not have been possible. The Imperium had banned true AI research 800 years ago after the machine uprisings. Entire worlds had been destroyed by rogue AIs. The humans seemed to have solved this problem somehow. The third thing he noticed was how they treated their soldiers. One afternoon, a young woman in a military uniform entered his shop. She was looking at data pads. Ralthos recognized the rank insignia. She was a pilot in the Terran Defense Force. Another human spotted her and called out, "Hey, Bora. Good to see you." The pilot, Bora, smiled. "Hi, Mr. Kim, how's business?" "Good, good. Let me buy you a coffee." "Thank you for your service." Bora laughed and waved her hand. "You don't have to do that. I mostly just fly patrol routes. It's boring work." "Boring work that keeps us safe," the man insisted. He bought her a coffee anyway. Ralthos found this strange. In the Imperium, military service was mandatory and unremarkable. Nobody thanked soldiers for doing their duty. But humans seemed to hold their military in high regard, even though service was voluntary. The fourth thing he noticed was their entertainment. Human media was filled with war. Movies about great battles, games where you commanded fleets, books about soldiers and conflicts. They seemed obsessed with combat, yet they rarely actually fought anyone. It was as if they had all the instincts of a warrior species but channeled them into fiction instead of real conquest. After 2 weeks, Ralthos managed to access a public human archive. He wanted to understand their history. What he found changed everything. Humans came from a planet called Earth. When Ralthos looked at the planetary data, he felt cold fear run through him. Earth was classified as a Class 9 death world. The gravity was 0.3 standard deviations above galactic average. Most species would struggle to walk on Earth. Humans had evolved there. They thought that gravity was normal. The atmosphere was 21% oxygen. That was toxic to most species. Humans breathed it like it was nothing. The planet was covered in dangerous life. Predators that could kill with venom, claws, or teeth. Diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Weather patterns that included hurricanes, tornadoes, and tsunamis. Volcanoes, earthquakes, ice ages. Humans had evolved in this nightmare environment. They had survived it. They had thrived in it. They had learned to turn every challenge into an advantage. Ralthos read about human evolution. They were endurance predators. On Earth, they had hunted by chasing prey until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They didn't have claws or venom. They just never stopped running. That same quality showed in everything they did. They didn't give up. When they hit a problem, they kept working on it until they solved it. When their technology wasn't good enough, they made better technology. When they reached space and found it hostile, they adapted. He sent his report to Director Myrthia. 2 days later, she recalled him to Valoria Prime. In her office, Myrthia read his report again. "A death world," she said quietly. "They came from a death world." "Yes, Director," Ralthos confirmed. "Everything about them makes sense when you understand that. They're not a peaceful species that happened to develop good technology. They're a species that had to develop that technology just to survive. And now they're in space." "Yes, And from what I observed, they're getting better every year. Their scientists compete with each other to make new discoveries. Their engineers constantly improve their designs. They see the universe as a challenge to overcome. Myrthia stood and walked to her window. Outside, the city of Valoria Prime stretched to the horizon. Billions of people living in peace under Imperial rule. The Imperium had maintained order for centuries. Now that order faced a species that didn't fit the normal rules. A species that was small in numbers but advanced in technology. A species that could defeat Imperial fleets but chose to only disable them. They could have destroyed Admiral Krelmoth's fleet, she said. Yes, Ralthos agreed, but they didn't. No, they showed restraint. That might be the most dangerous thing about them. Myrthia turned back to him. Explain. A species that fights only to win is predictable, Ralthos said. But a species that fights only when necessary and stops when the fight is won, that's different. They're not conquerors, but they're not weak either. They're something else. What would you call them? Ralthos thought for a moment. Pragmatic. They do what works. Nothing more, nothing less. Myrthia nodded slowly. She would include all of this in her report to the High Council. They needed to understand what they were dealing with, but she suspected some members of the Council would not want to understand. They would want to respond with force. They would want to put humanity in its place, to remind them that the Imperium was supreme. That, she thought, would be a terrible mistake. Back on New Jeju Station, life continued as normal. Bora, the pilot, finished her coffee and returned to her ship. Humans walked through the corridors, talking and laughing. The station's AI directed traffic and answered questions. None of them knew that they were being watched. None of them knew that the Valorian Imperium was gathering information about them. None of them knew that decisions were being made that would affect millions of lives. The High Council met again 3 months after the first encounter with humanity. Director Myrthia had presented her findings. The Council had read the reports. They had studied the data. Now they had to make a decision. Archon Supreme Telvanos looked around the table. We have heard the intelligence reports. We know what humanity is capable of. The question before us is simple. What do we do about them? Councillor Vectra spoke first. He was the youngest member of the council and the most aggressive. We cannot allow this challenge to stand. For 800 years, the Imperium has been the dominant power in this region. If we do nothing, others will see it as weakness. What do you propose? Telvanos asked. A demonstration of force. Not an invasion. A police action. We select one of their minor colonies, make a show of strength, and force them to negotiate from a position of weakness. Did you not read the reports? Councillor Nymra asked. She was the oldest member after Telvanos. Their technology is superior to ours. They have 200 systems, Vectra argued. We have 847. Technology means nothing if you don't have numbers. We can overwhelm them with sheer force. Telvanos listened as the council debated. Some agreed with Vectra. Others urged caution. Director Myrthia remained silent, her face unreadable. Finally, Telvanos raised his hand for silence. Director Myrthia, you have studied humanity more than anyone. What is your recommendation? Myrthia stood. I recommend we do nothing aggressive. Open diplomatic channels. Learn more. Crushing into conflict with a species we don't understand would be foolish. Foolish? Vectra said sharply. Or careful. The humans disabled one of our fleets. We must respond. If we respond with force, we may trigger a war we cannot win. Impossible. Their territory is tiny compared to ours. Myrthia looked directly at Vectra. Territory means nothing if they can destroy our fleets faster than we can build them. One human ship disabled 12 of ours. What happens when they send 100 ships? 1,000? The council chamber fell silent. Nobody wanted to imagine that scenario. Telvanos made his decision. It was not the decision Myrthia wanted to hear. We will proceed with Councillor Vectra's plan. A limited action. One colony. A demonstration. If humanity sees our strength, they will negotiate. Archon Supreme, Myrthia began. The decision is made, Telvanos said firmly. Fleet Admiral Vorketh will command the operation. Assemble the Grand Armada. The order went out across the Imperium. Ships were recalled from patrol. Crews were assembled. Supplies were loaded. Within 2 weeks, 400 warships gathered in orbit around Valoria Prime. It was the largest fleet the Imperium had assembled in 2 centuries. Fleet Admiral Vorketh was a career officer. He was competent, experienced, and confident. He had read the reports about humanity, but he believed in numbers. 400 ships against a minor human colony. It should be simple. His target was New Gwangju, an agricultural colony on the edge of human space. Population 3 million. Defenses minimal. It was perfect for a demonstration. The Grand Armada moved into position. Vorketh expected resistance. He expected human ships to defend the colony. He was prepared for a fight. What he found confused him. Only 6 human ships waited in orbit around New Gwangju. Just 6. Against 400. This must be a mistake, his tactical officer said. Where is their fleet? Perhaps they are hiding, Vorketh said. Scan for cloaked ships. The scans showed nothing. Just the 6 ships holding position between the Grand Armada and the colony below. A communication signal came through. A human face appeared on the screen. A man with a calm expression and a military uniform. This is Commander Tae Yang of the TDF battlecruiser Indomitable Spirit, he said. You are in violation of Terran sovereign space. This is your only warning. Turn back now, or we will interpret this as an act of war. Vorketh almost laughed. One officer did laugh, quickly silencing himself when Vorketh glared at him. 6 ships, Vorketh said. You have 6 ships against 400. This is your only warning. Withdraw or we will open fire. Commander Tae Yang sighed. He actually sighed as if dealing with a difficult child. You really want to do this? Okay, but remember we gave you a chance to leave. All ships, Vorketh commanded. Attack formation. Target the human vessels. The Grand Armada moved forward. 400 warships arranged in a pattern that had won 1,000 battles. Weapons charged. Targeting systems locked on. Fire, Vorketh ordered. The sky filled with weapons fire. Plasma missiles, particle beams. Everything the Imperium had multiplied by 400. It was a wall of destruction moving towards 6 human ships. On the Indomitable Spirit, Commander Tae Yang watched the incoming fire. Shields at maximum. Weapons free. Use disabling shots only. We're not here to kill anyone. Understood, Commander. His weapons officer replied. The Valorian attack hit the human shields. Just like before, nothing got through. Plasma dissipated. Missiles exploded harmlessly. Energy beams scattered. Then the human ships moved. They moved like nothing Vorketh had ever seen. One moment they were stationary. The next they were somewhere else. They didn't accelerate. They just moved as if space itself was irrelevant to them. A human destroyer appeared next to a Valorian battleship. A pulse of blue energy shot out. The battleship's engine stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, just stopped. Another human ship moved through the Valorian formation like a knife through paper. Every ship it passed lost power to their weapon systems. They could still move, but they couldn't fight. A third human ship did something impossible. It shot out dozens of small projectiles. The projectiles moved on their own, each one seeking a different Valorian ship. When they hit, the shields failed. Just failed, as if someone had flipped a switch. In 14 minutes, 147 Valorian ships were disabled. The rest were trying to retreat, but the human ships were faster. Much faster, all ships, emergency hyperspace jump, Vorketh ordered. He had to get his fleet out of here. This wasn't a battle, this was a slaughter. Most of his ships managed to jump away, but one of the Valorian dreadnoughts, the Pride of Valoria, couldn't activate its hyperspace drive. Something was stopping it. On the Indomitable Spirit, Tae Yang watched the dreadnought struggle. Gravity well generator active. Hold them in place. The Pride of Valoria hung in space, unable to move, unable to jump away. Its crew could only watch as the human ships surrounded them. Tae Yang opened a communication channel. His face appeared on every screen in the Valorian dreadnought. I want you to understand something, he said. His voice was calm but hard. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first 30 seconds. Every ship. Everyone on board gone. He paused to let that sink in, but we didn't. We disabled your ships. We will return your crews unharmed. We will even tow the disabled vessels back to Imperial space. He leaned forward. Do you understand why we're doing this? Nobody answered. The Valorian crew just stared. We're doing this because we're not conquerors, Tae Yang continued. We don't want your territory. We don't want to rule over you. We just want to be left alone. His expression hardened. But if you keep pushing, if you keep attacking civilian colonies, we will respond. And next time we won't be this gentle. He gestured off screen. You came here to kill 3 million farmers. People who never did anything to you. People who just wanted to grow food and live in peace. Taeyang shook his head. That's what you need to think about. You brought 400 warships to attack farmers. The communication ended. The human ships began the process of gathering the disabled Valorian vessels. True to Taeyang's word, they treated the prisoners well. Medical teams helped injured crew members. Food and water were provided. Nobody was harmed. 3 days later, the disabled Valorian ships were towed to the edge of Imperial space and released. Repair crews from the Imperium came to collect them. The human ships watched until every Valorian vessel was safely recovered, then left. Fleet Admiral Vorketh returned to Valoria Prime in shame. He had lost no ships. No crew members had died. But he had been completely defeated by a force 1/15 the size of his own. Archon Supreme Telvanos read the report in his private chambers. He read it 3 times, hoping he had misunderstood. He had not. 400 ships. The pride of the Imperium. Defeated by 6 human vessels. He called for Director Myrthia. When she arrived, he looked at her with tired eyes. You were right, he said simply. Yes, Archon Supreme. What do we do now? We talk to them, Myrthia said. We apologize, we learn, and we hope they're willing to forgive us. Telvanos nodded slowly. Pride had led them to this. Pride and the assumption that power meant numbers. The humans had taught them a hard lesson. The question now was whether the Imperium was wise enough to learn from it. On New Guangzhou, life returned to normal. The farmers went back to their fields. Children played in the streets. Nobody had died. The humans had protected them just as they always did. In the cities of New Guangzhou, there were celebrations. Not celebrations of victory, but celebrations of safety. The people knew how close they had come to disaster. They knew that their defenders had saved them. Commander Taeyang and his crew were given a day of leave on the colony. They walked through the cities as heroes. People thanked them, bought them meals, asked for their stories. The diplomatic shuttle was small but elegant. It carried the seal of the Terran Federation on its hull. It approached Valoria Prime slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Inside the shuttle sat 3 humans. Ambassador Su Min was in her 50s with gray starting to show in her hair. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. Next to her sat Jae Hyun, a younger man who specialized in alien cultures. He had studied the Valorians for 3 months, learning their customs and language. Finally, there was Captain Yunji, who had fought at New Guangzhou. She was there as military liaison, but also as a reminder of what had happened. Nervous? Jae-hyun asked Su-min. A little, she admitted. It's not every day you visit an empire you just defeated. We didn't defeat them, Yunji said. We defended ourselves. There's a difference. To them, it might feel the same. The shuttle landed in the Imperial spaceport. A delegation of Valorians waited for them. Director Myrthia was at the front along with several minor officials. Notably absent was anyone from the High Council. That's not a good sign, Jae-hyun whispered. They're not sending their leaders. Give them time, Su-min replied. Pride is hard to swallow. They exited the shuttle. The gravity of Valoria Prime was slightly less than Earth standard. It felt comfortable. The air was breathable, though it smelled different. Like flowers mixed with something metallic. Director Myrthia stepped forward. Welcome to Valoria Prime. I am Director Myrthia, Head of Imperial Intelligence. The High Council will receive you tomorrow. Tonight you are our guests. Thank you for your hospitality, Su-min said. She had practiced the Valorian greeting gesture. A slight bow with hands pressed together. Myrthia's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected the human to know their customs. They were taken to guest quarters in the palace. The rooms were large and comfortable. Servants brought food and drink. Everything was formal and polite, but there was tension in the air. The Valorians were nervous around them. They're afraid of us, Yunji observed later when they were alone. Can you blame them? Jae-hyun asked. We embarrassed them, twice. That wasn't the goal, Su-min said. We just wanted to be left alone. I know, but that's not how they see it. The next morning, they were escorted to the High Council chamber. It was an impressive room, designed to make visitors feel small. Su-min noticed this immediately. It was a power play. Make the other person feel insignificant and they would be easier to negotiate with. But she had been in rooms like this before. She had negotiated with alien species across dozens of worlds. She knew not to be intimidated. The 7 council members sat at their table. Archon Supreme Telvanos was in the center. He looked old and tired. Ambassador Sumin, he said formally. Welcome to Valoria Prime. Thank you, Archon Supreme. On behalf of humanity, I want to begin by apologizing. The room went silent. Several council members looked confused. This was not what they had expected. Apologizing? Telvanos asked. For what? For not making formal contact sooner, Sumin said. We've been aware of the Valorian Imperium for about 80 years. We should have introduced ourselves properly. Instead, we kept to ourselves, and that led to misunderstandings. Councillor Vectra spoke up, his voice sharp. Misunderstandings? You humiliated our fleets. You destroyed our ships. We disabled your ships, Sumin corrected gently. We didn't destroy anything, and we returned all your personnel unharmed, because you wanted to show off your superiority. No, Sumin said firmly, because we don't want to kill people if we don't have to. Life is valuable, even enemy life. She let that statement hang in the air for a moment. Our technology seems intimidating, I know, she continued. What's normal for us isn't normal for everyone else. We sometimes forget that. How did you develop such technology so quickly? Telvanos asked. We have records going back thousands of years. You appeared from nowhere with capabilities beyond anything we've seen. Sumin nodded to Jae-hyun. He stepped forward and activated a holographic display. It showed Earth spinning slowly. This is our homeworld, Jae-hyun said. It's classified as a Class 9 death world. The gravity is higher than standard. The atmosphere is toxic to most species. The life forms are extremely dangerous. He brought up images. Predators with teeth and claws. Storms that could level cities. Diseases that killed millions. Volcanoes and earthquakes. Humans evolved here. Jae-hyun continued. We had to. And when we reached space, we found it wasn't much safer. No ancient civilizations to guide us. No friendly aliens to help. We were alone. So every technology you see came from necessity, Sumin added. Our shields were developed because micrometeorites kept puncturing our early ships. Our weapons came from defending against hostile fauna on colony worlds. Our engines were created because we needed to reach distant systems and conventional drives were too slow. She looked around at the council members. We didn't develop these things to conquer anyone. We developed them to survive. Captain Yoonji spoke for the first time. Also, we're really competitive. Like unhealthily competitive sometimes. Several council members looked confused. Sumin smiled. What Captain Yoonji means is that human scientists and engineers compete with each other constantly. If one lab develops a better engine, 3 other labs immediately try to outdo them. It drives innovation. But it also drives us a little crazy, Yoonji added with a grin. Last year, 2 research teams almost came to blows over who developed better shield harmonics first. Almost? Counselor Naimra asked. We stopped them before it got physical, Yoonji said. Mostly. The tension in the room eased slightly. The Valorians were starting to understand that humans were not the invincible conquerors they had feared. They were just people who had faced hard circumstances and adapted. What do you want from us? Telvanos asked. You came here for a reason. Sumin took a breath. This was the important part. We want to offer a partnership. Not subjugation. Not conquest, partnership. She activated another holographic display. This one showed the galaxy, with both human and Valorian territories marked. The galaxy is bigger than both of us, she said. We've detected signals from beyond the rim. Something neither humanity nor the Valorian Imperium has encountered before. What kind of signals? Director Mirthia asked. We don't know yet, but they're getting stronger. And they're coming this way. Sumin highlighted an area of space far from both civilizations. Whatever it is, it's big. Big enough to make both our civilizations look small. She turned back to the council. We're offering a technology exchange treaty. We'll share some of our technology. In return, we want access to your historical databases and diplomatic networks. You've been in space longer than us. You know species and cultures we've never met. And military alliance? Vectra asked suspiciously. Mutual defense pact, Sumin corrected. If someone attacks you, we help. If someone attacks us, you help. But it's defensive only. We won't help you conquer anyone, and we don't expect you to help us conquer anyone. Because you don't conquer, Telvanos said slowly. Because we don't need to, Sumin replied. We have everything we need in our own territory. And honestly, governing more people sounds like a lot of paperwork. We're trying to avoid that. Captain Unji laughed at that. Our bureaucrats already complain about managing 200 systems. If we added your 800 systems, they'd probably mutiny. The council members looked at each other. This was unprecedented. A species with superior military capability was offering partnership instead of demanding submission. We need time to consider this, Telvanno said. Of course, Sumin agreed. Take all the time you need. We're not going anywhere. Over the following days, the humans met with various Valorian officials, scientists eager to learn about human technology, military officers curious about their tactics, civilians who just wanted to meet the mysterious species everyone was talking about. Jae-hyun gave lectures on human culture. He explained human art, music, and literature. He talked about human history, including the wars and conflicts. He was honest about humanity's flaws. We're not perfect, he told one audience. We've made terrible mistakes. We've fought wars among ourselves. We've hurt our own planet. But we learn. We try to do better. Captain Unji spent time with Valorian military officers. They asked her about the battles. How had 6 ships defeated 400? Better technology helps, she admitted. But it's also about training and tactics. We train constantly. We run simulations. We practice until reactions become instinct. She paused. And we believe in what we're protecting. Those farmers on New Gwangju? They're our people. We'd do anything to keep them safe. One Valorian officer asked, "Why did you disable our ships instead of destroying them?" Unji looked him in the eye. "Because you're someone's son, someone's father, someone's friend. Your life matters. Even if we're enemies in that moment, your life still has value." She smiled sadly. "And because we hope that someday we won't be enemies anymore." 2 weeks after their arrival, the High Council called the humans back to the chamber. Telvannos looked less tired than before. He had made his decision. "We accept your offer," he said. "Partnership. Technology exchange. Mutual defense." He stood from his